Welcome back. I am your host. I am attorney Stephen Leahy. This is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560. The Answer. One of my favorite segments.
This is one of my favorite segments as well. Before we begin the segment, though, I do want to mention to our listeners that if we do not answer a question on this show, that there are other avenues of getting your question answered, such as calling Open Tax Resolution 312-664-6649 or visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. You can watch previous episodes. You hear it all the time on this show. I really want to push this forward, ladies and gentlemen, because too many people get caught with their heads in the sand. Am I right, Attorney Lee?
You are absolutely correct.
Where the cascading issue just gets worse and worse.
I do. I tell people all this.
So remember, ladies and gentlemen,
the cascading tax problem.
Without further ado.
And now, here's that man with a head just crammed full of knowledge, Mr. Know-It-All.
We have found a way to introduce this segment. Deborah Schreiner, best in the business.
Best in the business.
Best in the business.
I want to say that this is what happens, right? Just what you were saying, that people, kind of put it off and yes. The cascading tax problem. And it's what I see. Most people who have IRS problems, and if you have an IRS problem, you know what I'm talking about. They're not new. It's been dragging on for some time, and that's because of this cascading tax problem. That's why you need advice early. We talked about that earlier in the show. Get advice early. Don't wait.
If you're sitting there going, well, I didn't ask early enough, just still get advice.
You know what people tell me is that I put your number in my phone, months and months ago. I just never called you. So put my number in your phone and then call me. Don't wait months and months and months.
If you have an issue, because some people have an issue talking on the phone, Attorney Leahy can talk to you just about anything, too.
That's right. I could talk about anything. Cubs, Bears.
Just to start the conversation. Mention you listen to the radio station.
Oh, that's big.
Listen to the IRS Radio Hour. Your call will be answered.
It's absolutely true. And if you have a question and you call and you say you heard me on the radio, I will always take your call and try to answer your question. Matter of fact, that's what happened here. And I got a question. Someone called and said, I got a 1099 that was wrong. I didn't make this much money. And they didn't make this much money. So I got this 1099. What do I do about it?
That's a great question.
It is a great question because what a lot of people will do is, and this is what we talk about 1099Cs and 1099As, and they ignore it. And that's a problem because when you ignore it, the IRS gets a copy of this, right? So they're looking for it on your tax return. They're looking for that for you to account for it.
It's called the pipeline.
And very good, Jim. That was from last week.
I pay attention to some things. I might be goofy, but I'm not entirely goofy.
You're goofy. Anyway, I'm just kidding you, Jim.
You are Mr. Know-It-All.
I'm crazy about you. Anyway, what happens is, right, they're looking for some way for you to account it. So first thing you do is try to contact the guy who gave it to you and say, this is wrong, and try to have them fix it before they send it to the IRS. Now, that's a very short window, right? Because they're going to send it to you. When they send it to you, they're sending a copy to the IRS.
Send a copy to your mother. They send a copy
right.
to your
Everybody
brother.
got one. And so what you got to do is, again, account for it. Make sure you include it in your tax return. And you're saying, well, does that mean I have to pay taxes on it? No, you don't necessarily have to pay the tax on it, but you have to account for it. So you might want to put it in Schedule C in, say, 1099, and then make a remark on it on your tax return. There's a place for that on your tax return.
This is where this gets confusing. Can I call somebody and get advice before I do such act? Can I call you to get such help?
Well, this is the
for
call.
Advice, at least.
This is where the call came from. Someone called. They didn't hire me. They just asked for this advice. And I got another good call. A woman from her parents had given her some money from China, and she said,
China.
She's from China, and her parents are from China, and they gave her some money, and she put it into a brokerage account, and she said, is that income? That
doesn't sound Chinese.
Do I have to pay taxes on this as income? And so that was a question that I researched it about the brokerage and all this about where it, and so I gave her advice. She didn't hire me, but I wanted to give you advice. And so if you have a question, again, a lot of this stuff, some stuff I should say, I don't know the answer to, but I will look into it. Especially if you call me and I don't know the answer to it, I'm going to find out the answer because I'm curious about it. I'm supposed to know these things. And so I know where to find the answer. So if I don't have it at the tip of my tongue, or if I don't have it in something that I've already read, I will go and research it and find out, or talk to people that I know. So I have a couple of tax preparers in my office. They're very, very good at what they do, and they know some of this stuff that I don't know.
To get back on track.
So this is where I'm talking about now, the 1099. So where did I come up with this? I looked it up on the internet. Go to the IRS.gov. I talked to my guys at work about how they handle this, and that's what we came up with. Report it on the 1099. Your 1099 on. Report it on your tax return on Schedule C and make a note of it, and then explain why you didn't use the whole amount. This was an error. And now you have already accounted for it. Because if you don't put it on there 2 years from now, you're going to have the problem. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, Opum Tax Resolution is there for you. 312-664-6649. If you have a question, call them. Tell them you heard this radio show, and your question will be answered, I guarantee you. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember, AM 560, the answer is the station we're on, and Opum Tax Resolution. Stay tuned, because more IRS radio hours coming your way here on AM 560.
The answer.